Hi, everybody. For this episode, we're joined by Michelle Atencion from San Francisco in the United States. She is the data coordinator for Larkin Street Youth Services, an organization working to end youth homelessness. Michelle is a fun and deep person who is known as the Beyonce of her department at Larkin Street. Michelle, thanks for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Beyonce. I'm also called the the hype woman of Larkin Street. So
wow. So you already have a couple different titles and we haven't even got started yet. Well, let's get going. Why do they call you the hype person of Larkin Street or Beyonce? What is that all about?
Gosh, through not just 2020, but working to end youth homelessness, working in the Tenderloin in San Francisco, there's a lot of youth that we are working with and staff. We're all coming with trauma, generational trauma. Just, every day our cups can be, overflowing. And Fridays, just now actually, I do a Friday dance break where I send my BCC all the staff. I'm trying to be very mindful of people not getting 100 emails a day, but just, with different messages, like be kind to yourself, like woo woo, like, it's Friday dance break. But also with that comes the same energy, like, coming to work, trying to leave whatever's going on with myself at the door, just really focusing on what's going on with the youth so that I can be an empty vessel and be able to work with the youth, the staff, just building relationships. So I'm almost always highly motivated and full of energy without coffee.
Without coffee.
I mean, I look at it like, if you have a baseline, like my baseline for happiness is here. So when I get a little bit like things aren't going well and it comes down here, I find the right coping skills to get back up. And I believe I walk in, I'll be like, hey, everybody. They kind of sound like Mickey Mouse, sorry, but hey, everybody. And everyone's just like, it's Monday. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I don't push it on anybody. It's just, I think, some people might say infectious or contagious or whatever. So
yeah, I get it. So Beyonce's full of energy, the hype person
just out there on stage,
Street.
like,
yeah. Do you
like,
literally dance around, or is it just theoretical that you?
No, we dance around a little bit. I might be known of doing like a 10 a.m. stretch, like across the board, also in different departments. And so you just get up and you play a song, and everyone stretches, and it turns into like a little like shake out your body, put your right leg in, put your right leg out type thing. And we get back to business.
Yeah, you must be fun to work with.
Thanks.
Yeah. Have you always been known as that kind of person? I mean, think back when you were younger. Did you always bring that energy? Were you always the hype person in school and in your family? Or is this something that you just is a trait that you bring to work?
I believe that is who I am to my core. I want to believe that it's innate, but it took a lot of trial and error, a lot of pain, a lot of darkness, a lot of different careers, within social work, but a lot of different demographics to be able to take that empathy and check in with yourself so that it doesn't turn into sympathy, it's just okay. But, I'm not feeling sorry for anyone because we all have our different stations in life. And, and so growing up and even until this day, I will say I'm a happy depressed person. And, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. You're going to be like, what do you mean you're depressed? Well, it's just like life throws a lot of curves at you. And I just was trying to build, a plethora of tools in a toolbox. So to be able to manage these things at all different times. I used to like to explain to myself when I was even younger that I would be the first person to talk to you at a bus stop. I used to take public transportation when I lived in the peninsula, which is a little further down past San Francisco, and the buses ran on our main street. And I would talk to people on the bus or at the bus stop. It would be about anything and everything, just engaging people. A little hi, how are you could be the first hi, how are you they've gotten that wasn't didn't have an agenda behind it, but that I was just trying to, bring brightness, bring a little to the day.
Yeah, a little Beyonce, a little.
I was like, let's not beat the Beyonce metaphor to the. But I was like, yeah, you got it. A little, yeah.
Got it.
For sure.
And So you describe yourself as a happy, depressed person. Is that what you said? And
I knew you'd catch that.
Those are two contradictory terms, but I think I understand what you mean. But can you talk a little bit more? How do those two conflicting terms come into one? What does that mean to be a happy, depressed person? Are you just chronically kind of down, but yet you allow yourself to, and you kind of bring yourself up, or what? What is?
I think. I mean, good question. I think it always comes down to like, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert type thing? And I know there's a term for it. We coin lots of different terms and phrases, but there's just this middle ground that that to be able to understand that with pain, like I said, with pain, there is. Well, the darkness, there's light. And when I say depressed, like, no, I wouldn't say that I've had to be diagnosed, but I have felt like an overwhelming need to cry, to at some point become it's like an emotional zone of tolerance where if you're not dealing with your emotions, you're finding, instead of coping skills, you're finding avoidance coping skills, ways to not feel. And when you do that through like a lot of different irrational things, like justifying what your issues are or over sexualized behavior, these type of things, you can go into a stage where if you're avoiding it for so long, you can become almost catatonic numb. And I found myself doing that throughout my life, like just kind of brushing things under the rug and taking care of everyone else. You ask a lot of people why they do the work they do, and they're like, oh, I want to help people. Well, I mean, yeah, but helping people does help me, and I had to figure out what that was. But then also when you do too much of that, you tend to not know how to help yourself. So I would find myself confused and not understanding like my own beliefs and morals and values. And so that would create a depression to feel not a part of your peers. Like go to a birthday party and you'd find me like, playing some games with like 10 kids instead of out in the living room having adult conversation. I just wasn't feeling as connected throughout the different times of my life. And now when I say happy depressed, it's because I am fully this bubbly, this motivated. I like tea. I like a little iced coffee from Starbucks. But I mean, I just will show up just full of energy because I've shut it all down the night before. I've self-reflected. I've, went over a few things in my mind. Didn't want to go numb, but would shut off around a certain time and be like, okay, I can't help that client right now. I'm off. And I've spoke to them, I will deal with it when I clock in tomorrow at 8 in the morning. Just really having to teach yourself boundaries. And that's what's helped me be in the middle and even being able to accept that maybe I don't see it as being depressed as much. It's just the term that I've used because I think it really creates an impact, just like what we're talking with you now. They're like, happy depressed, what do you mean? And I mean, with the world that we live in today and having to really respect like the LGBT community and understanding like what they, them means, like happy depressed is how I identify. And whether you see that or not, it took a lot of work for me to be, hey, it's not like I'm just crying right before we turn the camera on, but, I can do it because I know for me, crying is healing. And I'm not as scared to just emote, if that's the right word. Yeah.
I think I get it. We all have those extremes of emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've all gone through trauma in one facet or another. It looks different for everybody. The severity of it is different for everybody. But to be able to experience that and bring that into yourself and to be okay with that means that you're going to have periods where it feels more dark than others. But yet we all have wonderful memories and wonderful experiences as well, too. And so it's about combining those two together to be a whole person. Is that right? I mean, because I think of you as we were getting to know each other, you're just a deep person. You think on a very deep level. And I'm trying to understand that on a very simple level. But it's about, I think, feeling that whole range of emotions and being okay with it and embracing them no matter what they are.
Yeah, I would say that's a safe assessment. It's the whole thing of like being an empath, people say, or, just absorbing energy, absorbing the other like feelings that are around you and understanding and truly understanding that none of us have any idea whether we told you, like whether we were like, oh yeah, I called you and told you, but none of us really have an idea of what anyone's going through or been through Like, we both clock in. I see you in the office like at 8 a.m. Like, I don't know that maybe you just got in an argument with somebody right before you walked in, or perhaps you're feeling overwhelmed with your charting, or you wanted a promotion, you didn't get it, or someone in your family's sick. Like, there's all these things going on, and then we show up, we suit up, and it's important, again, with the burnout portion of it, to understand what's going on. So, like, even to understand your triggers, so that you're able to, like, again, come to not just work, but to be present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's very thoughtful. That's very insightful. What was your childhood like, Michelle?
Oh my gosh, it was fab. No, just kidding. It was fabulous. No issues at all. No.
It was a perfect upbringing.
It was the best. It was actually, I don't, when I have had this question asked to me or have analyzed it, because I was such an analyzer before until I could start, what's the word, compartmentalizing what was what and where was what. But I never wanted for anything. I don't think I knew that we were maybe middle class or less than middle class. I also think I came from my friend, she helped me with the statement the other day, an era where you don't see color. A non-seeing color era where, like, I appear, possibly people can look at me and be like, oh, she must be Hispanic, or she's this or that. And it might sound funny. I sometimes can say I identify with a white person. Like, and by that, I mean, I can't assume I know what any different culture goes through, but my stepdad, who is my dad, raised me since I was 3. And so we grew up in the suburbs, and there was a lot of different things going on in the family, with codependency, addiction, different things like that just weaved its way through the home and through life, and some other outside things that affected my siblings. But growing up, I was my mom's right-hand person. And so that, for me, I might have felt like I lost a little bit of my childhood by taking care of 4 siblings underneath me, but I also soared right to the top of every preschool that I worked at, or in-house child daycare, or maybe got jobs at, like, schools that I didn't even have, like, the background to do yet, like when I was only like 18, 19, because I had that on-hand experience. So a lot of benefits. So I think it makes sense that at a young age, I was able to look at why, what was what, rather than be like, oh my gosh, woe is me, my life sucks, and understand that even when there's, like, conflict, you can see everyone has a story. Like, if someone's not getting along with their parent because you have, like, a mom-daughter, issue, or daddy issues, which was always a reoccurring theme, even working with young men, like ages 16, I'll be like, daddy issues always seems to come up. But just knowing that these are, like, reoccurring things for everyone. I just been through enough and a lot, and I still have so much more to learn. But my childhood, everyone's childhood really does shape them. It just depends what you want to do with that,
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that about your childhood, and it makes sense. I think I kind of understand how you are the way you are. You're kind of up front, you're a leader, and you take things.
Thank you.
You just run with them, it seems like. How has your childhood and your experiences in your life so far influenced your work with young people? What kind of skills do you bring that you learned throughout your life?
So definitely empathy, understanding, not having to know exactly where you've been to be able to just accept you and, meet the client where they're at, understand and be able to find, like, just really being understanding of all the different scenarios and solutions, that not everyone comes with a manual. So, you might work with 3 young people and be like, oh, awesome, we got this. We're doing life skills, we're helping them get jobs. And then you meet one who happens to just take more of your attention, who's like, doesn't read very well, or has been hurt and nobody sees it because they seem so tough. I resonate with that. I can mirror that, like, be like, just being really sensitive, but being really strong. Like you said, being a leader, being really strong, and then also being sensitive, so that's why I got to cry a little bit more just to get it all out, and just, I think it really feels good to feel like, you don't have to have all the answers, but you're able to work as a team or work as a network, as a community, especially with YIPA, just getting all these people together and talking and being able to be like, oh, okay, we're all, we're all learning from our experiences. And my childhood has just taught me, I mean, even today just has taught me to accept people for who they are, I think I might have shared this when we were getting to know each other. Like, one of my first jobs when I was an alcohol and drug counselor was nobody wanted to go to this young program with sexual offenders, young people ages like 12 to 17. And I was like, what? Like, we're here to teach them the skills. I mean, everybody deserves it. But obviously, some people had been hurt in the past. It was triggering things. And aside from my own experiences, nothing too intense. And maybe that's why I could be objective. But I just know that we all deserve a chance to learn a new skill, and just to be there. And I remembered then it wasn't about being numb or that I could do anything or I could work with anyone. It was just that I was meeting the client where they were at.
Yeah, I can see that in you, and I can imagine that you are really good at building relationships with people and accepting them for who they are, and that's so needed with young people, that trusting, caring relationship, especially if we're talking about young people who are experiencing homelessness. They have a lot of reasons maybe to be skeptical of adults in their world, and somehow you must connect with them really well. But, now you're doing data collection. Do you miss directly working with young people?
What is amazing coming out of that? So even when I was interviewing for that position, I had 4 people interviewing me, and they all kind of got a little quiet. And they're like, "Do you have a question?" I was like, "Yeah." I go, "Are any of you wondering, like, is Michelle going to miss the kids?" Right. Or any of you wondering, like, are you sure she should change and make this shift? And they all, a couple of them giggled, and one of them was like, just still kind of getting to know me, but they were like, yeah, we kind of had that, in the back of our minds. And so what it's done for me is, I have been, like, other people are like, I did this in 2020. I learned a new language. I learned, how to cook or whatever. I just was I worked on finding me, who I was before a previous time in my life where I lost who I was. Okay. So for me, by choosing to do this meant that I wanted to start using my, the constructive side of my brain. Like, you're working you're front facing. It's amazing. You're working with programs, you're helping create, you're recruiting, you're doing events. And then now I want to come from the back end and learn a little bit more about how, the funders work and how we can continue to get the staff trained on the things. Like, they're doing all the amazing work now that I was once a part of, but they're out there, and we're going to continue to help them and always be there to support them when they need to learn how to, chart something so that they can show the funders through our reporting that they're doing all this amazing work. Because the youth are not a number, but the money comes from somewhere, and we want to be able to continue to get that money. And by continuing to get the money, we got to show what we're doing, and we want to so we're just kind of like performance management is what I just decided to change my name. Like they're doing all the amazing work. We're just kind of like, don't forget to do this one. Remember this one. This is do it this time. And just, and with like little funny, like little emojis and like, little dance breaks. It's been a nice change because, my manager, they said that they thought and they believe that I am a great fit because of the relationships I had already built with staff and clients. But the best part of it is it has awakened and opened in me time to do this podcast. I have been part of some pop-up events here in town and in surrounding areas, and I got back into nannying. Because I nannied for like 20 families for like 20 years when I was in Sacramento. And so now, like, I nannied at a pop-up event. I literally had my dog and 3 kids and trucking them along at this big pop-up event. And for a short time, like, I was like, oh gosh, where'd one of them go? You know what I mean? I was everywhere, but it's like the energy I now have. Before I was like, my hip hurts, or, I just got commuting for 2 hours back and forth. Now it's like, I've got all the time in the world.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Now I'm a part of all these different events. Like, we had the Black Joy Parade in Oakland. I was at the very front center with signs and on TV, and looking forward to, we have a wellness and mental health day coming up. So I was able, I have the flexibility to be a part of those things now.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe we have to take a break already, but when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit more about your youth work in particular. So we'll be right back. And we're back with Michelle. Right before the break, I mentioned I'd like to talk a little bit more about directly your work with young people. Is there one thing you can think of that you accomplished while working with young people that you're really particularly proud of?
So many come to mind, honestly. I like to think presently, but if I can look over time in the different young people I worked with, I feel like what was really challenging is like during I would say around the 2010, 11 years, I was working in a high school in San Joaquin district. It's in a town called Galt, California, and I was responsible for 3 high schools out there. And something that was becoming very that was running rampant was the sex trafficking and human trafficking, and I was working at this one particular continuation school, and I had a young person come in, and just the way that they explained, what was going on for them, I recall having school crushes and holding hands and skipping through the park. This young person was thinking they were going to have that, in middle school, and found out that their significant other wanted to pimp them. And so it's I really kind of got into motion and was okay, we really need to create some kind of groups to teach them self-worth, self-confidence, try to get back their power, and so me and a couple of these young people, we created a little bit of a curriculum together, just something that could work for that type of mentality, because I was getting nervous about what those young people would look like in 10, 20 years, raising families and, just being out here in the community without being extremely jaded. I know we all have trauma, but this was just really intense. You got some developmental stages here that are gone. You can't even say, you might be able to say what a high school sweetheart is, because your high school sweetheart, you know what I mean? Locked you in a hotel room and had you meet with different men. Yeah. So that was the challenging part of the work, but it brought a lot of collaboration together, and it was really nice to be able to work with the actual young people, because it was coming from, and so they were learning and understanding their emotions and what they were lacking. And we all have these 5 basic needs, and what they were lacking was love and belonging, and how to get that need met. So they were trying to get that need met in any way, and sometimes just to get love, you'll do whatever. So I thought that I was doing some really good work, and I guess I say I thought because, you can't help but just hold it really deep inside, oh, I messed up. But I remember the parent came looking, and I couldn't talk to the parent because I didn't have the release of info, but I know that they spoke to the principal at the time and found out that this young person had ran away and went back to the person. I think eventually I spoke to another one of the staff members. The next year I wasn't at that school, but I heard they had came back. So I got the okay to go back and chat with them, and I started doing all girls after school group. And so with all of that, I felt that just continuing to be there, being consistent, it was really hard because, sometimes the young people might be like, what is all this choice theory stuff you're trying to teach me? What do you mean I matter, you don't matter, what? Or I count, you count. I'm sorry, it's I count, you count. They didn't get a lot of these attitudes and behaviors curriculum we were trying to teach and look at different things they were doing, but they knew that I would keep coming. And so I learned a big lesson that consistency builds trust. And I had to incorporate that into my own life to know that, every day, I might just have to take a walk at a certain time that, it's going to get the whole exercise and losing weight thing, but it's going to get your heart pumping. It's going to get sunlight and movement, and just being able to be there and work with them and work with the young person who basically help them to help themselves.
Yeah. That's something definitely to be proud of. To be consistently there for them, reliably there for them is what they need, maybe more than anything else. So good for you for doing that. What do you think the most challenging thing about being a youth worker is?
Definitely what I was just sharing, the not knowing, the feeling could I do everything I could, or could I have done, could I have stayed a little longer on that one session, or maybe I should have done this activity, giving them homework. There's been a lot of times like that. But the biggest challenge even today is just the resources, where the funding is going, where the money is going. Like, we want to end homelessness, and there's a lot going on there. But like, even with addiction, like a lot, you can get better in many ways. It's not just a rehab, actual facility. I mean, it could be like a good job. It could be going back to school. So just continuing to have these relationships with other organizations and work with each other to maybe build more programs out. When I worked in Sacramento, there was a little bit more. I noticed because we were in the high schools and the middle schools, like teaching this different type of curriculum on behavior modification. And I know that there's agencies like that here in San Francisco and surrounding areas. I can only speak for where I currently am, and they're working towards even they just started a harm reduction program. So we are there. We're serving the need. It's just challenging to kind of see a young person go through what I went through in my 20s. You want to do so much, and like, I don't know if I forget the name of the exact movie, but it's like this Lego movie, Will Ferrell at the end. I hope I don't ruin it for everyone, but at the end, you end up finding out. Spoiler alert! At the end, it's Will Ferrell playing with these Legos, and he's moving the pieces around. And if you look at that, like in our lives, like a lot, sometimes you'll never know the reason why maybe you like maybe you weren't bullied anymore, and let's just say because somebody came through and let you use their address and let you move to a different district. Or, I mean, and that's just one example, but there's different people come into our lives, and really people you can trust and people you can look up to, because you have no idea. Like a young person doesn't even know that they'll meet you in a session, and like randomly, like I'll have someone in like a session and they'll be like, well, I just got caught drinking at the football game. I don't know why it's a big deal. But then you come to find out that there's so much challenges in their life, and then they see someone like me just bubbly, caring, and they'll be like, okay, there are people out here in the world that care about me. I'm just, trapped in my world out here in the street that I don't realize it. So it's challenging that, I mean, I don't want them to get in trouble. Well, I mean, it's funny to say, like, I need them to get in trouble so they can come find us. I need them, that need, but it's just challenging to see them go through these struggles, and because of their trauma, being misunderstood, or whether it's the transgender, not understanding their identity or understanding it, no one else is. Like, it's challenging just to see them struggle with trying to find out who they are.
Yeah, but you've done so much and worked with so many different young people in different capacities. Did you know you always wanted to be a youth worker? Was this a given destination point for you, do you think, looking back?
That's a good question too. I was watching something where someone goes, if you weren't a so-and-so, what would you have been? And I answered that question while the TV was asking the question, and this is it. Like, I mean, of course I love to sing, I love to dance, I love to like maybe create events, like not decorate them so much, but like, bring people together.
Organize them.
I like to organize. I'm a very good networker. I like to kind of, check things off a list and confirm that things are working well, like the little cleanup and setup crew type thing. But yes, I mean, and I don't think like, if my mom wouldn't have had, my siblings, like would I have went a different way? But I'm doing everything that I get involved in. I'm bringing the same type of energy. Yeah. So even washing dishes is an exciting thing. if that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying I was going to be a dishwasher, but if I had to be, I'd wash, all the plates first, all the forks, and stack them together. Like, I'm really kind of, I don't know if it's like some kind of like little like on the spectrum type thing, but yes, just working with youth is just giving back to the misunderstood. Like, everything I learned as an alcohol and drug counselor, even up until now, I wanted to go back to like, in kindergarten and first grade and be like, teach them coping skills. Now, again, coping skills it's just 2 words, but you got to give them meaning. So, teach a 5-year-old how to deep breathe. So whenever they're struggling with something, like, it may not solve everything. Maybe their parents are still, getting divorced. Maybe someone abandoned them. All of that's still happening. We're all human. Mm-hmm. But it's like teaching them to be like, you know what I mean? Just that feeling you get, like, just to be able to reassess, teach a young person how to ground themselves. So, I feel like I had a little bit of a hot temper in middle school. So I think we want to catch them young, not wait till they're, in trouble and looking in the mirror going, oh my gosh, I'm clear. Like, someone be like, oh my God, I'm 35. No one can tell me what to do, that type thing. And it's like, they missed out, so it'll be harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe we're at the end of our time together already. You have so many stories and so many little interesting things to share. And I'm so grateful that you chose youth work and decided to support young people and helping them find their way in this world, because I think you bring such a unique perspective and so much energy and so much enthusiasm and this kind of deep thing about a happy, depressed person. I think you got to be just wonderful with young people. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we go, though, Michelle, I would like to give you the last word and ask you, what words of wisdom or inspiration would you like to leave with the listeners?
Of course, a lot of little phrases come to mind, even ones that I shared earlier when we spoke prior to starting. Those are just so the statement I have is like my go-to, right? And it's, you can only take your client as far as you're willing to go. And I want to make that bigger here and say, and I want it to be more personal. Got to be able to bring it into your own life if you want it to work, not just your 9-to-5 life, and just really kind of say, you can only take yourself as far as you're willing to go. Mm-hmm. And by that, I mean accepting of yourself, understanding yourself, the triggers that you go through, the trauma, understanding that it's trauma, and just loving yourself, being kind to yourself. Yeah.